So of course it's Thanksgiving. You're gonna have fun eating tonight, and then tomorrow you might go out, get in a crazy fight with some people at Target or Walmart, or you just might be online shopping and getting your deals for Black Friday. But either way, Thanksgiving and the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys have had a lot of history on Thanksgiving, and today I'm gonna mark some notable games from there. Every year I'll start doing this, just saying some notable games, some things that happened, some historic games, and then I'll go every year it would be a little bit less historic than the previous year. So this year I'm going to do some pretty historic games. Like the first one, the one time they tied on Thanksgiving, and a couple others. Let's start off with the Cowboys versus the Cleveland Browns, aka the Cowboys' first ever Thanksgiving game. Later that season, they ended up making the playoffs, but in that game, they ended up winning 26-14 in a pretty good game over the Browns, led by quarterback Don Meredith. In the game, quarterback Don Meredith went 16-24 for 131 yards and a touchdown, as running back Don Perkins ran 23 attempts for 111 yards and a touchdown himself to help the Cowboys secure a win versus the Cleveland Browns.
So the handoff goes to Don Perkins. And he moves in for the touchdown. The Dallas Cowboys moving for 72 yards in 13 plays as we look again.
This is the only time in Cowboys history they've actually tied on Thanksgiving, and this was versus the San Francisco 49ers. Quarterback John Brody of the 49ers went 18 of 33 for 255 yards and 2 touchdowns, as running back Doug Cunningham went 11 attempts for 48 yards and no touchdowns. On the Cowboys side, Craig Morton went 16 of 37 for 206 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Not the best Thanksgiving for him, but able to get his team a tie still, which is way better than a loss, especially versus a team that had 2 wins that season. And then Wade Garrison went 12 carries for 85 yards and no touchdowns. But Dan Reeves ended up getting 13 carries for 29 yards and a touchdown.
Dallas quarterback Craig Morton was troubled with 3 interceptions, but he managed to move the ball with throws to his running backs. Number 30, Dan Reeves, got 1. Then Reeves found a space window and rocketed in for the first Cowboy score. The other Cowboy running back, number 32, Walt Garrison, was the game's leading rusher. His safety valve receptions rescued Dallas in several tight situations. Finally, in the third quarter, Dallas capitalized on a recovered fumble and pulled into the lead with a 31-yard strike to flanker Bobby Hayes. But the lead vanished when Brody drove downfield and hit rookie Gene Washington in the Dallas end zone. Both teams had collected field goals, so Dallas trailed by 7 points. With 4:13 left, Craig Morton scrambled for his life and spotted flanker Lance Rensel. Rensel dove and managed to drag both feet in the end zone to tie the score. But catch-up is all San Francisco would allow. When the clock ran out, the score remained 24-all.
The Cowboys vs. Redskins / football team's history has been quite a long one. They've played 9 times, and they're about to play their 10th time on Thursday today, or tomorrow, whenever I post the video. Either way, the Cowboys and the football team have had some pretty good matchups, some pretty good games, and the football team actually only has 1 win, though. The Cowboys are 8-1 versus the football team, and it seems to be in Dallas's favor for, just in general. And right now, the way the Cowboys are playing, they could beat the football team and advance to 9-1 versus the football team. The only time the football team / Redskins ever beat the Cowboys on Thanksgiving was in 2012 with the RG3 era, They ended up winning that game 38-31. Robert Griffin III, of course, being their best player, 19 of 27 for 304 yards and 4 touchdowns with an interception. But that didn't really affect the outcome considering they still won the game. Tony Romo, on the other hand, also did really good. 37 of 62 for 441 yards and 3 touchdowns. But he did have 2 picks, which wasn't really that good. But everything else about his stats was actually pretty good. He had an 84 rating, as Robert Griffin III had a 31 rating, or 131 rating. Alfred Morris also did pretty good, 24 attempts with 113 yards and a touchdown. Felix Jones, on the other hand, went 6 carries for 14 yards and no touchdowns. The Cowboys also in that game only had 11 rushing attempts, which was very low, and all of it together went for around 28 yards, give or take a few. And Des Bryant balled out 8 receptions, 145 yards with 2 touchdowns, one of them being 85 yards, which is the longest for the time in Cowboys history on Thanksgiving. But then Amari Cooper, a couple years later, ended up surpassing that with a 90-yard touchdown. And Pierre Garçon had 4 receptions for 86 yards and a touchdown. So did Aldrick Robinson had a touchdown, Santana Moss, and Niles Paul. So Robert Griffin really spread the ball around that game, which helped the Redskins get a win versus the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. In the next Thanksgiving video I make for the Dallas Cowboys, I'll go more in depth for some of the Cowboys versus Redskins games. But for now, I was just doing the only one the Redskins ended up winning, and they can maybe get their second today on Sunday or on Thursday.
Dallas organization. Here's DeMarcus Lawrence up to get it. All things going right for the Dallas Cowboys. Elliott, touchdown.
Miami. Stoyanovich will decide it as he will try this field goal, which will be 40 yards. 40 yards. Doug Peterson to hold. Blocked. The Cowboys will win.
Wait a minute.
Well, it was in the end zone. No one covered it, and Miami did. That could be a touchdown if Miami has covered it.
A Dallas player touched the ball, and then the Dolphins went on and recovered it.
It's on the 1-yard line. It's not in the end zone. It's in the 1-yard line.
They're going to sort it out.
Now, before we continue, I think you just saw the mistake. Freaking Leon Lett decided to jump on the ball after a block kick, and it ended up being a fumble, and the Dolphins recovered. They got another chance to kick a game-winning field goal, and they ended up hitting that one as they took the lead with 0 seconds left, 16-14, as the Dolphins ended up winning the game. And yeah, that's definitely a sad way to end your Thanksgiving, thinking you won, and then your player touches the ball and loses you the game. I mean, usually games aren't lost by one person, but this one was. And, just kind of a sad ending to a Thanksgiving tradition, or not to the tradition, but to the game of that year. But still, the Dolphins ended up getting a win out of it, but the Cowboys ended up making the playoffs later that season. So, it's not like it really, messed up the season, but it was just kind of a dumb play,
Into the end zone. However, since the ball was still a kick, it's down when the kicking team recovered the ball. The kicking team gets awarded the ball at the spot in the field of play, first down.
And the Dolphins, as if they received an early holiday present, cheer on the sidelines. The Dolphins pull it out. 16-14. Game over.
Well, even though the Cowboys have given up on Jason Garrett as a coach and he was fired, This is probably the best part of his career as a player and not a coach. But this is when Jason Garrett stepped in for the injured Troy Aikman on Thanksgiving, and ended up leading the Dallas Cowboys to a 42-31 victory against the 6-5 Green Bay Packers. Jason Garrett ended up going 15-26 for 311 yards and 2 touchdowns. And it's kind of cool because, backup steps in on Thanksgiving and, blows out a pretty good team. Either way, Emmitt Smith ended up getting 32 carries for 133 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is very impressive. Someone getting 32 carries is quite a bit, plus 133 yards to go along with it, and 2 touchdowns. Darrell Johnston ended up getting 3 carries for 4 yards and a touchdown, the famous fullback for Emmitt Smith. I also forgot to mention that Brett Favre also was in this game, and he actually did really good. Even though they lost, he had 27-40 for 257 yards and 4 touchdown passes. And it kept them close throughout the game, but in the end, the Cowboys just started putting it on them.
George Coons. There's a flag. Let's see what happened to Garrett.
Yeah, it was on Sean Jones, I guess is what he called right there.
Garrett back to throw it. Going deep. He's got Harper. Harper's going to score. Flag on the play. Darrell Johnston gets in.
And now the chart says, Pat, that the Cowboys should go for 2 again in this situation.
Well, here come Harper and Irvin. Garrett back to throw it. Outside Emmitt Smith. Irvin's the blocker in front of him. Emmitt Smith going. Johnston got a block. Emmitt Smith finally taken down inside the 10 by George Teague. Second and goal from the 19. That's Emmitt Smith. Touchdown. From 19 yards away.
That's why Emmitt Smith is the best. I mean, today he has a badge.
Garrett going deep for Irvin. Flag on the play, but a touchdown Dallas. The flag was way away from the touchdown catch. Touchdown Michael Irvin.
Because the Packers came on a blitz on that play, Pat, and Emmitt Smith stepped up and picked up the blitzer to let Jason Garrett get rid of the ball. Here's Michael Irvin down here fighting, and then he breaks away. Has a little speed right there to get the step.
So the 2 times the Cowboys didn't have games on Thanksgiving was in 1975 and 77. And because the St. Louis Cardinals actually ended up taking their game on Thanksgiving, and they ended up losing all 3 games, because the next year they played Dallas on Thanksgiving, and they lost all 3 games, and their Thanksgiving spot was taken away from them. The reason the Cowboys' Thanksgiving spot was actually taken away from them for 2 seasons was other teams complained that the Cowboys shouldn't have a Thanksgiving game every season, because they claimed it was an unfair advantage for them, which I don't really understand why, but it's whatever. The Cowboys still ended up keeping it after that, because they're the highest grossing team in the NFL. Of course, that made the NFL a lot of money. Either way, the Cardinals' 3 games were versus the Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, and Dallas Cowboys. One of the games, the Cardinals actually were in Dallas, so that's kind of why they was only taken away from them for 2 seasons, basically. But they ended up losing to the Bills 14-32 in a complete domination. I think O.J. Simpson was in that game, actually. I'm not sure, though. And then the next season, they ended up losing 19-24 to the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. And, it's kind of a slap in the face for, taking their Thanksgiving game. They ended up losing 19-24 with Roger Staubach back at quarterback. He ended up getting a rushing touchdown and throwing another one. Actually, I think he threw 2. And then they played in Miami the very next season. My voice audio for this was actually was deleted for some reason. Either way, the final season was for the Miami Dolphins, They lost 14-55. Complete domination of them. Of course, the Cowboys and Cardinals were rivals at that time. So kind of some good news for the Cowboys. Also, another interesting thing about that game is that the Cardinals went into that game 7-3, ended up losing the rest of their games and going 7-7. And yeah, it was kind of like a downward spiral from Thanksgiving after they lost 55-14. You know, if you're gonna let someone put up 55, you should at least put up 40 yourself. You know, just kind of like to make the game at least interesting. But hey, at least they started off good. Either way, that's really gonna be it for the video. I was just showing you guys some interesting Cowboys history on Thanksgiving, some interesting scenes and some plays and some games, just the most historic stuff. Next year I'll do some more, but it won't be as historic. It'll be just more like cool games that you walked out of it happy or walked out of it sad. But besides that, I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Goodbye. Besides that, I'm just gonna sprinkle on some more Cardinals losing on Thanksgiving for Cardinal fans. And yeah, I want to show you a little bit of highlights from the Cowboys versus Cardinals game and full highlights from the Dolphins versus Cardinals game. The full highlights are like a minute and a half though, so it's not like it's much.
Moralizingly late in the half, and had resulted because they had been duped on a fake punt. Score at halftime, Dallas 14, St. Louis 7. Quarterback Bob Greasy did for eyeglasses what Clark Gable did for ears. He made them quite fashionable. Peering through windshields, all Mr. Greasy did was throw 6 touchdown passes and leading his team to a 55-14 romp over the Cardinals, who were busy giving up the most points in their 58-year NFL history. On the feast day, bespectacled Bob was 15 for 23 for 207 yards. 3 of the touchdowns went to wide receiver Nat Moore, number 89, as Greasy set a team record and came within 1 of the NFL's single-game record for scoring passes. The long toss of the day was a 37-yard strike to tight end Andre Tillman. To give the Cardinals their due, their secondary has been riddled by injury, but it would have taken a concentrated flak barrage to stop Greasy, as he made Thanksgiving truly thankful for the 26 teams that weren't playing the Dolphins. Now with their record at 8-3, Miami is focusing in more sharply on the playoffs, and every kid quarterback in America is saying, "But Mom, just because I have perfect vision doesn't mean I can't at least try glasses, does it?"